the drums are out there.
Oh, there's some water back there.
And these drums
Okay. So our next tech session is by one of our main sponsors, SNG Barratt. And I'd like they were our strongest sponsor and our earliest sponsor, and they really allowed us to go forward with this AGM. So I'd like to introduce Tony Lee, who is the general manager of SNG Barratt, and his partner, William Wigglesworth. So we're going to hear all about some of the...
I think he means colleague, not partners.
Yeah. that was politically incorrect. I knew I said something wrong. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to turn this over to Tony now, and he can go through some of the trials and tribulations of the parts business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and hope I don't put you all to sleep in the next 10 or 15 minutes, but we'll see how we go. Welcome to the AGM at the North Pole, or sorry, I'm in New England. Do you all like the weather?
Yeah. Beautiful.
2 weeks ago it wasn't as nice as this. So what I wanted to do was to talk about us as a parts vendor and how we became a parts vendor. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a history first, but after that I'd like you to ask as many questions as you want. We do this for a living, we talk about it every day, and if you've got questions, just put your hand up and I'll do my best to answer them. So SNG Barratt was started by a guy called Steve Barratt, who was a school teacher. He taught French. He actually taught at the same school that I went to, and he was an E-type enthusiast all the way through college, loved his car, and was permanently trying to source parts. It was very difficult back in those days, and he would buy parts, sell them if he didn't need them, and this funded his hobby. So all of a sudden he realised that he could make more money out of being a Jaguar parts specialist rather than the French teacher. He'll freely admit he wasn't a very good French teacher. He didn't teach me. Mind you, I still can't speak a word of French, so what do you know? So fast forward to 1986, I joined the company, and back then we were a team of 4. Here in 1991 we're a team of 6, and Stephen and Hazel had mortgaged everything that they got to buy the rather unsalubrious building you see behind you, which is called the Old Workhouse. And the Old Workhouse literally was an old workhouse, and rats, you name it, they were there. So at this point, as I said, he mortgaged his every bit of property that he owned, and he had gone and bought a bunch of Triumph, MG, all that kind of stuff, parts. But by this point we decided that E-type was the way to go, and into reproducing parts. The parts that you see there in front of you, things like the joint, what was that one?
In case you didn't recognise Tony, by the way, this is
Yeah,
a few years back.
a rather callow-looking youth at 21 years of age.
So yes, steering wheels, bumpers, simple everyday stuff that we sell. The headlamp chromes there.
Did you make those? Did you reproduce?
Yes, we reproduced all those things, yeah. Back in the day when Stephen was a school teacher, anybody know what a Renault 5 is?
Yeah.
Yeah? Anybody know what an E-type bonnet box looks like? Can you imagine an E-type bonnet box on the roof rack of a Renault 5? Well, you can pretty much imagine what he was like on the school car park before he sold out and became a parts specialist. So do you want to advance the slide? So in 1995 we moved to bigger proper premises which aren't infested with rats and other communicable diseases, to our current location, which is in Bridgton, North Shropshire, and is SNG Barratt HQ. And back in 1999 we started off SNG Barratt USA, and that is where we're currently based now. Both Will and I moved here a few years back. And from a staff of 6 back in 1991, we have moved on to being a staff of 86 in 2014 in 4 different countries. So how has the demand changed in the last 30 years as far as I'm concerned? Well, it hasn't. The demand for cars or parts is still there exactly like it was, except for the market is slightly more discerning. You know, the parts availability is way better than it was back then. It's almost up to sort of dealership level, I think. Well, the internet certainly, we talk about, sorry. Excuse me a second. Sorry, I've got a rather uncharacteristic attack of the nerves. I don't know why, but let's try and start again. So, how has the market changed in the last few years? Now, sorry, guys.
Over the last few years, I mean, the market has definitely changed. I've been with the company 8 years this year. From when I joined, the market changed from very much over the phone at the start. Nowadays, we receive probably 40–50% of our orders over online. The fax machine hardly ever rings. Thankfully. So if we're still sending faxes, it's time to move on to email. And we have trade portals for trade customers, so they can go on, order all their parts in one go and file them over to us.
Whoa, run room.
Sorry about that. We're not meant to stand too close to
No, I think that's probably the problem, isn't it? I might stand over here. Yeah, let's carry on. Okay, so we set about making parts that nobody else makes. What you can see Martin assembling there are E-type door lock assemblies, which we make from scratch because they weren't available. How do we make these? Well, in lots of cases we reverse engineer them because the original drawings aren't there. We do work very closely with Jaguar. We actually supply Jaguar a whole bunch of parts. And where the drawings are available, we can use them. But in the case of these, it took us a long time to get them right. Because if you take the inner wheel from these locks, and then you try and reproduce it, you're trying to reproduce and measure from something that's already worn. So it took us a while to do, but they're now what we call perfect. We also make gas tanks and a whole bunch of sheet metal stuff. Now, all of this stuff that we're working on here is basically were subcontractors of ours. And over the years, we decided that instead of subcontracting or making stuff by giving it to somebody else to do, we'd actually bring it in-house and produce it ourselves. So this is where the staff have increased from 6 people to 80 people.
Here in the US or in?
Just in the UK. Just in the UK. In the US, we did make trim for a few years, but we don't any longer. This is quite an interesting shot here because the tooling that you see here all belong to Lucas. And the switches, what's being made here are E-type indicator switches, turn signal switches. And they were produced on a multitude of these different tools that we have here. And the real old world And back in the day, there'd have been one person sat there at each tool just doing the job because they were being made in hundreds. Obviously, we don't do that any longer. But we started this back in 1992, I think, and we bought this combination of stuff out from Lucas, and it's gone on from there. Because we have expertise in producing the switchgear and various other things, we're now able to do other stuff that's common. So we do parts for Rolls-Royce and various other things. This is a washer bottle, E-type, and also Mark II sedan that we produce from scratch. It doesn't work in exactly the same way as the original one does, and it looks very original though. Can we use the word Lucas? Yes, because we paid them to do so.
Works better?
Yes, absolutely works better. And he says making E-type door handles that we again tooled from scratch because they weren't available for a whole bunch of years. That's a blank screen. These are E-type header tank internal tubes, which again is something else that we produce on site. And producing it on site, we can control the quality. It's also not made in the Far East. Shot of those, and once they are completed, they go off to be powder coated, and we make these in batches of 100 or 200 or what have you. Whoever did this PowerPoint presentation really liked those header tanks, didn't they? 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And this is a new system that we have because we buy in lots of parts that we don't keep. So let's say that you've got you want a washer bottle for a car that we don't keep it for. We will have a location built temporarily, so we know where to find it, and so on and so forth. Research and development. This guy here is a guy called Peter Stant, and he used to work for a company that you may have heard of before, a company called Vicarage. And Vicarage produced convertible Mark II sedans, and the technical guy behind it was this guy here, and he came to work for us a few years ago. So he looks after our fleet of cars and comes up with all sorts of interesting and new ideas, a few of which we'll show you in a moment. The poor availability of items that were produced by original manufacturers, such as pistons-wise a few years back, made us decide that we needed to do something else. With a lot of the classic parts, when these companies get taken over by a bigger organisation, they consider the classic stuff to be a little bit of an aggravation because the quantities that are involved are very small compared to the main business that they do. Let's say that they're doing pistons for General Motors or for Ford or for one of the original manufacturers. So we approached Mahler, who hopefully everybody knows is a really good quality German brand of piston, and we said, well, you produce them for the 600 Jaguar engines, and they said yes, we will do. So we stock these exclusively. In fact, they are exclusively available from us, and very nice quality product. If we would like to have a look, Will, would you like to hand some around to people?
They come with rings.
Yeah. And the other more exciting item is engine bearings. Anybody familiar with the name Vanderbilt? Yeah. Well, Vanderbilt as a brand is owned by Mahler, and Vanderbilt were loved because they had a type of coating called VP2 or trimetal, and the trimetal bearings were not available for many years. Again, they were reverse engineered by other companies, but we now have Vanderbilt spec bearings in a Mahler box, basically. Mahler have retired the brand name for Vanderbilt, but they're available and they're great quality bearings, and they're also really sensibly priced as well. Do you want to talk about the handbrake compensator? This is a new device that we have here. Okay. 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 The E-type handbrake compensator was originally a scissor type with a pivot, and the pivot would seize, or the scissors wouldn't work, or the spring would break. So our guy, Peter, I just showed you a few minutes ago, has come up with this mechanism. It's very, very simple. It's a twin cable adjustment, and it gives you a much greater range of adjustment and no chance of failure. So on the rear of these cars, handbrake mechanisms can work better on one side of the car than the other, and this will allow you to adjust those with a great deal of precision through this, giving you an extra 20 millimetres of adjustment. And we try and come up with items like this as often as we possibly can. So if anybody would like to have a look at these things, please come up and do so.
Does the rear end have to be dropped out to replace
No,
it?
no, you can actually fit that without the rear end being dropped. I'm not saying it's easy, but it can be done.
The finish you have on that looks like it's rust wrong. We're actually using some sort of rust for that.
I think this has been coated with something or other.
Looks like a black oxide.
Yeah. Interesting question. It's actually the first one of these that I've seen, so I don't know the answer to that question. I apologise. Okay, let's move on. We're very well known as being an E-type supplier and an XK supplier in early parts primarily, but we are very much into later model cars too. This is a V8 timing chain kit, because as most people will know, the 4-litre V8 was prone with engine problems for many years, and we will supply you a kit of everything that you need to do the job and to repair it. Do you all know that if you remember the JCNA, you get a 10% discount with us? You don't. You're welcome. And we enjoy supporting events such as these very much. So, do we have any questions?
Do you take suggestions for products?
Absolutely.
How about remote bleeders for rear brakes on E-types?
We've had that one, and we have something in the works on it.
Good.
In terms of, let me show you something else. In terms of reproducing parts, the club asked us to reproduce this item a few years back. Yeah, for the Series 2 E-type. And it's an item again that we had to reverse engineer, and we've been working on this project for about 2 years. We found it very difficult to come up with the correct type of modern polymer that will do the job, but we seriously reckon that we have this cracked now. Okay. And
Cracked.
well, not cracked. That was probably a very bad choice. Like I say, I'm uncharacteristically nervous right now, so I apologise. But just to sort of explain how difficult something like this is to do and how costly this is, we are 5 figures into this job so far, and we haven't sold a single one. Every time we mix a batch of polymer to see whether it works and it's appropriate, it's $1,000 to go at it. So, but we will not sell this until we know that it's perfectly fine, it's fuel resistant, and what have you. There's a fair bit more give in this one than there was in the original one, right? Easier to get on the hoses, because to fit the standard one, you'd have to remove both carburetors and put it on, or remove one and kind of bend it, then you twist it and it breaks. Well, this isn't the same as the original, but is that a bad thing? It's maybe correct. Yes, yes. Do you say can we make it?
Yes, more cosmetically close.
No, the diameter is about the same. Yeah, the material's slightly different. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Tony, go ahead.
You said you make parts for Jaguar as well as
Yes.
just by parts. Do you label them as OEM, and does other things you sell, do you label them OEM, or are they all?
Yeah, we would label them OEM, but we supply a whole bunch of stuff direct to Unipart that we produce for them. There's a lot of the sourcing that we are able to do, the in-house production and the research and development that probably doesn't exist at the factory for the old stuff. So very much so, yeah, we are a big supplier to Jaguar.
And is this all made in England and then shipped over?
Yes. Well, it's all made in England and shipped to Jaguar via that direction. Sorry, you had a question?
In the next 1 to 5 years, what do you see changing in the parts supply market and capability in the industry as a whole?
I think that there is a real big interest in stuff being exactly original and re-engineered to the point that it's either as good, better, but aesthetically the same. You know, I think people are very, very concerned. I mean, they look at these old moments in time and try and preserve them. Well, the minute you replace a part on a car, it stops being original. So you want to at least replace it with something that's authentic. So I see that, and you know, very much in terms of quality of parts. You know, we put a lot of effort into doing that ourselves. If you're around for the banquet tonight, you'll see our E-Type being driven reasonably speedily, shall we say, and we use that car a lot. We try and break it, particularly if we've made parts.
That's the one you built from your own parts?
That's right. That's right. That's right. You know, we wouldn't say that it's original, but it's built using parts. It's a fantastic looking car. So yeah, that's where I see the next 5 years. Do I see the interest diminishing in that time? Absolutely not.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
One more question. Tony.
Sure.
Who supplies the body parts, body panels for XKs, say for the XKs?
All of the XK stuff is supplied by a company called Leaping Cats back in the UK.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, and they produce very good quality stuff. It's all very low production runs, but produced on original English wheels and very handmade, but nice quality stuff. Yes, sir.
A lot of times in the marine industry, boat business, cast metal parts are zinc or hot metal of some kind, and when they chrome plate it, it pits and all pimples up and it's very ugly looking after a while. Same thing has happened with Jaguar cars where certain molded parts have not been able to hold the chrome plate very well. They bubble up. And I heard recently there was a company that was making certain molded parts out of brass and then plating those with chrome to avoid that problem. Have you explored that area?
We, to a certain extent, yes, but it's all down to the quality of the chrome, and it's down to the copper coating underneath the chrome, and nickel normally below that. With items that we produce, we will manufacture in the best quality aluminum as we possibly can, and then they're virgin castings, if you like, so they're not something that's been re-chromed, because what you're saying about the pitting, particularly, if you try and strip the chrome off something that's old and replate it, basically no chance. You know, you're really going to struggle with that. So we do make a few items for later cars in ABS plastic and get that chromed too. But for what we do in terms of E-type rear lamp castings, as a for instance, no, they are still aluminum as they always were. No problem. Yes, sir.
With regards to your pistons, there's a lot of conversation, particularly in the performance industry, about Teflon coatings on the skirts. Have you had any conversation with Molly about the advisability of that?
We haven't, but we'd be happy to.
It's supposed to reduce the opportunity for scuffing dramatically.
Really?
Which is a problem.
Yeah, one of the questions, and lots of times I've seen this on the discussion forums, is the piston clearance, because Marla quotes a different piston clearance to a bunch of other manufacturers, and I've read this on Jag Lovers and various other things. But Marla are very sure of the product and exactly how it behaves thermally, so they stick with the size. Incidentally, I will show you, because we get asked this question a bunch. Where is the clearance marking on these things? And it's right on the crown, and it's in metric, and it says SP, which I believe is German, is the word Spiel, which is the German word for clearance. If anybody speaks German in here and wants to copyright, play, yes, for play. And it's written in metric, so that would translate to about 3.999 thou. something like that, but it's written on the crown of the piston, and that's what you should machine the engine block to. That's a common question that we get asked. Does anybody have any further questions? I do apologise, I've really messed this up. I had a bunch of other stuff to say, and I'm not normally nervous. It just, all of a sudden, you're out here and you're in the headlights, and I'm pretty relaxed now, so. Yes?
Porcelain coating on exhaust manifolds.
What's the coating?
Porcelain coating on exhaust manifolds.
Yes.
It lasts about 500 miles if you got it.
We guarantee them for life,
Yeah.
if you don't start the engine. On that basis, we do get failures, rarely, believe it or not, on these things. The factory didn't guarantee the finish, we don't guarantee the finish, but we will do this. If you buy a set of manifolds from us, brand new, and they fail within a short period of time, like you said, 500 miles, which is ridiculous, we'll replace them, no questions asked, once. Because there are temperatures, differentials sometimes between the front manifold and the rear manifold. One goes, if it rains and you get water on the manifold, it starts the enamel pumping off it. Do we get every set that we sell with the enamel popping off? Absolutely not. Would we sell them if that was the case? No, we wouldn't, because it's not a way to treat your customers.
And the conversation is that internally ceramic coating then may be of some benefit. Any experience with that?
I have no direct experience of that, but I've read it. In terms of gas flow, yeah, and that kind of stuff. No, I haven't.
Just one last question.
Sure.
Just being that we're here because we judge Jaguars and think it's part of the things that we're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
In your industry, there seems to be very little policing as far as the terms reproduction, replica, exact duplicate, clone, whatever term you want to use. Is there something to be done now so the person who's buying the part knows they may have a suitable replacement part, but it's not an exact replacement part?
Well, if you look on our website, we have several different terms. If we put a hash mark or a pound sign, as you guys call it over here, after the part number, that indicates it's OEM, which means it is either from Jaguar or from the company that supplied Jaguar. Let's say Bilstein for shock absorbers or some such. If it has an asterisk after it, the asterisk indicates, and the website explains this in quite detail, will tell you that it's a copy or a reproduction. Again, will we keep stuff that we're not happy with? The answer to that is no, we won't.
Some things are functionally correct in terms of what they do, but not cosmetically correct in terms of...
Indeed, and I think that's something that we're definitely working on. If we go back to 20 or 30 years ago when we did this, any part that you could get, great. You could get a part that wasn't available, and there were some very poor quality items that were around. And we've given ourselves under a great deal of scrutiny and said, well, are we happy with this? Could we do better? Yes, we can do better. We wanted to go out the first time and stay out, and everybody to be happy.
Tony, what do you mean by tour support packages?
Tour support packages. Well, we've not been asked to do this by you guys, even though the country's huge, but the JEC, the Jaguar Enthusiast Club in the UK, quite often... Stop it. Quite often we'll do a tour where members will ship over their cars, and there'll be 50 or 60 cars shipped over, and they'll do a 2,000 or 3,000 mile tour of the United States. What happens if a car goes wrong? Will you give us a set of parts? Will you give us some spares? Well, whatever we choose is going to be the item that won't fail. If I give you an alternator, your starter motor will fail, because that's just the way that it goes. So what we say to them is, we've got a whole bunch of parts in stock here as a gesture of goodwill to you guys. Wherever you are, we'll next day air it on our dime. So if any of you guys are on the oil leaks and various other things, Peter, you involved with your oil leaks?
No, I think one's just finished, hasn't it? There might be an eastern version of it. There's no oil left.
Yeah, Mark, I think you've been involved with us before, and we've said that we'll ship stuff next day air if that's what you need, just as a help. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Tony,
Tom.
here in the U.S., we have a 10% ethanol limit with some political pressures to push that up to 15. with a lot of us with the older E-types and 120s and 140s and 50s, is there anything out there that will be able to tolerate the ethanol as far as upgrading the entire fuel system to be able to accommodate that?
Well, yes, I believe that there is. It's not something that I have a particular specialty in. I'm not really qualified to answer the question, but I know people like Berlin Fuel Systems, who are the primary supplier of the SU products, are looking at that and have already changed compounds and upgraded over the years that these pumps have been available. And I think it will have to change for the future because that stuff eats, eats everything. So.
Well, basically what I was looking for is if there a product line that will include all those fuel system components that would be maybe offered as a kit for an upgrade.
I guess we could do. Yeah, it's not something we have on the cards, but I guess that's something that we could do for the future. To to give you a kit to unbolt everything and upgrade it and go from there.
It's the one little piece that you missed. This one's good.
Yeah,
Sorry?
of course.
Somebody with some expertise putting together a kit would be very useful.
Yeah, it would. Anybody else?
Just expanding upon that, Joe Serto works with the SU carburetors, and he firmly believes in the Viton rubber on all of his components because of the
ethanol, yes.
ethanol. And I'm in the swimming pool business, and the Viton seals
That's what
are
we use.
designed also for the highly corrosive.
Yeah, well, current fuel metering, fuel flow valves for the SU cars, they have Viton tips on them, and that's the way forward. At least the original ones do. The reproduction ones we don't keep. Just the OEM ones. Dave?
Concerning the last item on your list, on behalf of JCNA, I'd really like to thank you for your support.
Thank you very much indeed. Apologies again for losing it.